So we're working on the LA River X project, and we're recording this message so that we could talk a little bit about some of the artwork that these wonderful artists have made. So this first one, it's by Fred Kaplan. And the reason I chose this one, the first thing when I looked at this, I thought, let it be. To me, this is like nature in its finest. It's just seeing the beautiful water and the glistening of the water, seeing the beautiful colors in the sky and how those beautiful colors are reflected onto the water. And then the landscape, seeing all the beautiful reeds that grow along the river and the trees that obviously is like probably fall time because you don't see any leaves, but everything just feels so calm and so peaceful and the way it's supposed to be. The second picture I chose, this is in the Frogtown area. The artist was Rex Weiner, also done for LA River X. And my take on it, my first feeling was nature encroached upon because the bicycles and the walkers go on this little pathway. You see trees on this side, which have been planted. They're not, usually native to here or natural to here. And there's buildings just beyond on the right-hand side. But then when you look across beyond the railing, you see the river and you see the beautiful greenery that is coming back. Because this is an area that happens to be concreted. And yet what happens is a lot of the silt will build up in certain places and eventually plants start to pop up the way they're supposed to, right? They're supposed to thrive and they know what they're supposed to do. So this particular area has a lot of greenery and therefore you see a lot of birds and you see a lot of animal life. And one of my favorite things is the herons that hang out here. They're so beautiful. They're water birds. And so I picked this because this is what we see today. I spend a lot of time in this area and I always congregate where the plants are. That just makes me feel more at peace and to know that things will continue the way they're supposed to.
I actually do really like this piece as well. And this is an area that we often go to because there's that Stillhead Park that we have actually done cleanups at. And I feel like for me, like this is an interesting piece because this is how most people in LA get to experience the LA River beyond driving over her. Because like when you talk to everyday people, they're always saying like, we don't even know there's a river here, or I drive over her all the time. And then there's like this kind of third option that we bike ride over the river. And when I see this, I see that this is the point of access that a lot of people have to the river. And I'm hoping that this isn't the end all to be all, that our ability to interact with the river isn't just through concrete, isn't just through riding by her incredible nature, and that we're going to be focused on in the future, what we could do to like create better points of access, right? Where we're actually making it walkable, or, we could walk inside of it, or that we're making it more accessible for people who are wheelchair bound, because right now you couldn't be able to go down to the river. So I like this piece. I think it's interesting. And I just think of access when I see it.
This one really tugs at your heart because there is a lot of houseless people that live along the river. And of course, they have to utilize the benefits. They need the water. And here you see water. You see a lot of things floating in the water. And it makes you think, how clean is this? He's fishing. He's going to eat something out of that river. How clean is it? And I've seen fishermen that fish and eat the fish and have talked about it online. And they say that they've never gotten sick, that the fish are healthy, and they're very comfortable with it. But then someone who works along with the water systems and knowing that they're always doing testing and that sometimes the E. coli is super high in the water system and, things are off balance at certain times. And other times it's when water's flowing and it's been raining and things have cleared out, then it's healthy. So it just makes you wonder. But yet we're in this place, the way things have become because of colonization. You see the concrete he's sitting on, you see concrete along the side to the right, and then you see the beautiful nature. And knowing that Creator actually designed our river system to be clean. You have the sand, you have the silt, you have the reeds, you have the plant life, all of that filters the water. So I'm hoping that this is a clean area because he's going to probably catch a fish and eat it. So my take on it was adaptation because we have to do what we have to do to survive. And that's exactly what he's doing.
I really enjoy this piece as well. When I see it, I see refusal in the sense of this is an area that refuses to be concretized completely. And there's places along the river where we see that. And I look at that as like the metaphor for the system of colonialism, that how colonialism tries to encase indigenous ways, indigenous life ways, but that indigenous life will always persist no matter what. And even if, for instance, this person that is fishing along the waterways, which can be dangerous and not something that we want to promote, knowing the science part of it, but even just refusing the system that says you cannot connect with the water, that he is still going to go out of his way to connect with the water. And like the water has always been a place of refuge for people who cannot find housing since Los Angeles became a city. And I think we're in this current moment where the number of houseless individuals are growing and there's going to be more people flocking to the river. So I really appreciate this piece. And I see a lot of like adaptation, like you're saying. But for me, it's also like taking some power back, the water and the person that's actually, experiencing the water in this way. I do want to say that I do appreciate the Alley River X project because it is really highlighting storytelling for the river, and it, as Tongva people, I think it's really important that we understand like how people are perceiving the river. The pictures really reveal their relationship to the river. So I've been going through the archive and learning so much about like just different perspectives. So I love thinking of the river as story, especially from a person perspective. But I also think of river as story from an institutional perspective and like how the city and the county think of and treat our rivers. And I think the kayaking, which I'll share right now, tells us a lot about what kind of things that the city and the county are trying to push on us right now. I really do view water as this very integral storyteller. And I think about the way that water has been presented to us over the generations. And as somebody that studies the history of the Alley River in the 20s and the 30s, and even to the current moment, almost, the river has kind of been cast as this like menace, this river that is very dangerous, that needs to be controlled. That's why it's this huge flood control channel. And just like maybe the past like 10, 20 years, we've seen this narrative shift towards one that tells us that the river is something we should care about, but only through recreation, that the river is a potential site of development so that people could, like you see in this picture, experience her through sport, through kayaking. And while I think that's important because it helps the river become accessible to everyday people, I also think it's a dangerous narrative, in my opinion, because when we establish relationships that are extractive, like recreation, we're not focusing on the health of the river holistically. So I do think that, seeing pictures like this where people are kayaking really speaks to the times that we're in. And like being a part of the LA River master planning process, I really got to see firsthand that the city and the county are prioritizing revitalizing certain parts of the area of the LA River for recreation, for more parks, for more concrete. And that's worrisome to me as somebody that wants, where we can, take out some of the concrete to bring back the natural life that you were seeing. Like in that picture you showed us, like let it be. There's not really a lot of spaces that people were planning for to let nature be, to let nature come back. And I think that recreation can come after we'd have a period of reconciliation, which we need to reconcile our relationship to the river, let her come back in a natural way, take out concrete where it makes sense to take out concrete. And then we could get to that point where we're recreating. But if we just go from we're looking at the river as this menace, this thing that is dangerous and gets in the way, to all of a sudden she's something we could kayak over, we're missing this huge part of healing that I think that we as Indigenous people are going to advocate for in this moment. Like recreation, yes, but not until we really get her to the point where she's healed, like where we're able to fish. Like Jessa Calderon, one of my really close relatives, where she had this amazing stance where she was saying nobody should be kayaking along the river until it's good enough quality for us to put a TIA in. And I completely agree with that, and that would create this sense of responsibility towards the river that I think is missing in this current moment in these narratives that we see around recreation.
Yeah, I agree, Annie. And I think that's important to let people know that the Tongva people, we were a maritime society. And so, yeah, we have TIATs that we normally use in the oceans, but in those water systems, we had tule boats. They're called taraina in our language. And we didn't use it as recreation. We weren't racing. We weren't just throwing them in the river for just to use them. It was a mode of transportation, right? But when you think about what it's made out of, all natural tule, there's nothing that's being put into the water that can harm her. It's not plastic. So yeah, it's a big difference. And just to think, there was an event that we had done where we brought a tule boat. It was part of our exhibition, but we didn't put her in the water because we didn't feel like the water is safe enough for that yet. And so that's one of the messages we're trying to bring home is, yes, she needs to heal before we just start jumping in there and recreating. And then another part around that, like the 30-30 plan, the Olympics, all these different reasons that they want to revamp the river and they want to put in lots and lots of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars to revamp the river. But it's not just to bring her back to health. It's not just to make her natural again. It's commerce. There could be more kayaking, there could be more water sports. We could utilize it for a purpose, but it's all around commerce, all around, making money.
Oh yeah, it's definitely all about development, speculation, and I often say that like these developments and these green spaces that they call them, they all come at a cost, and that cost is kicking out neighborhoods and communities that have lived along the river for decades. So I always feel like water planning and housing are so deeply connected, but a lot of people who do the water planning, I think it's the privilege of probably having homes. They don't think about housing or they think that's separate from it. But for me, and I think an indigenous stance, we think of everything kind of holistically, that water and housing go together. If we're going to make improvements along the river, they also need to come with housing protections. And I'm thankful you brought up the Olympics. The Olympics are, we're just thinking in the terms of 4 years, how to bring in the most tourism to impress the European, tourist. But these changes and these investments will have long-term impacts on our folks that we're not thinking about just the 4 years, we're thinking about the generations to come after us. And, I think this is a really important time where housing and water people need to come together and be on the same page about, we do want improvements. We do want to revitalize the river. That is not something we should compromise on. But what will that mean for the people who live there now? There's already 8,000 houseless individuals that are estimated to live along the LA River. And if there is no affordable housing, that number is only going to increase.
Yes, totally. And the safety that you talk about, because it's not only even houseless, there are people that just their homes happen to be close by the river, like around Maywood, and the water is just not safe. They've done the testing, and there's actually a lot of toxicity from chemicals. So it affects not only the peoples, but all the peoples, even the animal peoples, the plant peoples, right? So yeah, cleaning it, not only in this area, like the whole river, it's so important.
So one of the ones I really went in on is this picture of river as dump. I explained that this picture is, to me, like a time and place. This is another Jim Kisiel picture. Like, he has amazing pictures, no doubt. But for me, in this current moment, I think there was a time and place to kind of highlight the fact that the river is looked at as a dump, or at least is not treated in a way that we need to be more mindful about how trash ends up into the river and then out to the ocean. But I was thinking that there was a time and place for pictures like this, but also like we need to stop casting the river in these ways. Like, it is very harmful. And I was wondering, like, if after he took the picture, if he might have, picked up a bag of trash, and that we can't just continue to like be passive observers of these like things that go on along the river, and that we could be active, and that while this picture is important to highlight, that I would also like to see a follow-up picture of maybe him picking up a bag of trash or a youth doing that kind of work, because it's going to take a lot more action to undo a lot of these harms. And like people always ask me like, what can I do to like be a better ally to Indigenous people? And it's like, it's not that complicated. It's kind of like taking this responsibility on your day to day to like do things that you see can be right. So I don't really want to see pictures of the Alley River looking at like a dump anymore. I want to see pictures of people like coming together and picking up trash. Like to me, like that's more Indigenous led kind of stewardship ideas and models of taking responsibility for the problems we have. And that's kind of what this picture evokes for me.
I'm glad you're bringing that up because, both of us have done cleanups along the river. There are organizations that do quite often and literally are taking out tons of trash. And it's consistent. They will do it, if not monthly, they'll do it quarterly. So there is a lot of trash that's being cleaned up and taken out. But you're right. We just can't stay on top of it if everybody's not pitching in, because it's going to keep happening. It's going to keep forming. But I think there's like a bigger problem, and that's the infrastructure. And so, I had the opportunity to speak to Army Corps of Engineer one time about why they're not creating like these nettings that keep the water from flowing, because it starts up in the mountains, right? And it flows down and it's picking up trash in every city because people don't pick up their stuff and cities are not keeping their areas clean. So it just keeps floating down and then it dumps into the river at this exact point, just a little bit more. And so you see huge things, we see things that people literally dump there, like couches and stuff like that. And then you see this kind of trash that probably just, was on the side of the road, ends up in the water, comes down the system. And so I feel like if they would change the infrastructure a little bit, then it would be a lot easier for those people who are physically doing cleanups to manage it. And it would actually look clean. Because I know I have done a cleanup and we've taken out so much trash and it looks like we didn't make a dent.
That is so true. I think what I really want is that, obviously we need to make these entities responsible, the Army Corps of Engineers, the cities, the county. But individually, I think, we all hold that responsibility as well. So I think there's two sides to it, right? This actual direct action of picking up trash, which is amazing. And we should all kind of like try to do when we can anyways. And then there's that, let's make the city and the county and the Army Corps more responsible and be on the same page about what we expect out of the infrastructure. And it's just a shame that it's in 2024, heading into 2025, that the Army Corps hasn't addressed this in a real way. Are we surprised? No, but
No,
it's not right.
no. Because their response was, oh, then those grates will get clogged up and somebody will be responsible for cleaning that up. Well, yeah, hello.
Come on, you.
Somebody's responsible for cleaning it up after it gets in the water. Why not before,
Yeah. And that's another thing, like all these state institutions, they're so just one area focus, one project focus. And it's like we have to think of it holistically, and everyone's just looking out for their little tiny bit of liability. And it's like, if you're not creating a project, if you're not thinking in terms of the whole river, then you're like missing a huge point of, what it means to actually bring this river back to life.
Right.
But in terms of me having more pictures to share, I think those two were really like what I wanted to bring to the table. And I'm really glad you brought like the more nature part of it, because that's the part that I'm still learning about. Like I could do politics and history, but the nature part and building that relationship, like I feel so humbled by what you teach me. And I miss our elders who were teaching me how to have that relationship, that water is not just a resource, but a relative. And how do we live that out in our day to day? I'm sad that they're gone, but all I could do is continue to like try to learn as much as I can from our community. And I'm so thankful for you, Tina. Like you have no idea, because I feel like you are that person that really pushes us, the younger folks in our community, to like be accountable to the water, be accountable to the land. And yeah, I'm just thankful for talking to you, being able to record this. It's just very special.
Thank you, Annie. And of course, I appreciate you and all the work that you're doing. Such an important piece. And you've linked it even beyond our little LA area, with the Biohinado and how we're receiving our waters and stuff. So it's huge. There's so many aspects to it. And, if they would just take down the dams and things could be flowing again. And like there's so much, right? But you can't do point A until they do point B. And there's so much to it. And not too long ago, when we were having, I think it was last year, we were having tons of rain. And that water system that you see right there behind you in your picture was going all the way up to the top. And so it reminds us of why they've created this infrastructure, because we're living too close on top of the river. We don't allow her to swell. We don't allow her to go the way that she's supposed to naturally. So yeah, they have to have this infrastructure to keep the water from going over. But there's a lot of things we could do that would allow the water to go into the tables and not fill up like that on the concrete, right? So it's a lot of work to be done, but all we could do is keep on talking and keep on asking and hoping eventually those powers that be will listen.
Yeah, and I believe in people power and that we are influential in changing hearts and minds in our own homelands because we're on the good side. We're on the side of life. We're on the side of dignity for not only people, but for the water itself. So that gives me hope, even though sometimes where you feel overwhelmed because there's always like a fire to put out or there's always a meeting to go to. But like when I think about what the water needs and how I could be of service to her, like things become clear and like telling stories and engaging with these various projects where it's going to reach a larger audience, like that's really important to our people because the city doesn't have a moral value to tell us about how to have relationship with water. We do. Our community does. And I've been saying this a lot lately where it's like the city doesn't want to teach you or the schools don't want to teach you about water. That's okay. First people, first teacher. We could do it. So thank you for helping me understand that relationship so that I could get out there and do the work. Because this work is nothing without the guidance of elders. And I just want to uplift like Julia Bogany, who was really big water protector for our community, Auntie Barbara Drake, who really taught me how important it is to share our knowledge with everybody, not just within ourselves, but like she taught everybody who came across her path and like the kindness, the beautiful spirit she had. Like I've never met somebody like that. And I even feel her spirit with me now. A lot of times when I feel a little bit downtrodden, I think about her and just like, but so elders are so important within this because we're carrying on whatever they're teaching us to the next generations. And not only just in our community, but to everyone who calls the LA Basin home. So thank you for this opportunity. Thank you, LA River X Project. Very cool. And yeah, I'm done here.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Awesh Koneha. I appreciate you much. And I appreciate the LA River X project as well. Thank you.